had one of the most meaningful conversations of my life when I was flying into Denver International Airport, sitting next to a woman who told me that her husband went homeless on purpose. For 6 months, he intentionally went homeless because his doctoral thesis was on homeless adolescents, and he just knew that in order to speak from a place of empathy, compassion, and true understanding to make a difference, a meaningful difference, a thoughtful difference, he had to authentically experience it himself. And as I sat there gobsmacked and just totally curious about this fellow who would do something so audacious, I begged her, please tell me at least one or two of your favorite takeaways that you learned from him or that he learned and put into his thesis. See, she was a professional editor, so she did academic stuff and she did children's books and textbooks and newspapers and things like that. So she's very well versed. And one of the things that she pulled out as one of her favorite vignettes was that you and I think we know this, but we don't really know just how sensitive we are as organisms. You see, he was saying that when he first went homeless, it was really hard to even get a shower. You'd have to save up money from putting in cans and getting cents back to actually get a membership or a pass at the YMCA so that you could go take a shower. Never mind that you had a bar of soap that you got from the shelter. So she said he would go into the woods with a bottle of water and his soap and try to give himself a sponge bath. But we don't realize how important running water is, because more often than not, he didn't actually get all the soap residue off. And his skin would start to burn and itch and sting and turn red, and it would get worse with each passing day. She paused then and used that as an example and said, look, you also probably don't realize you think this, but you believe that the people who are on the street are there because they're a french fry short of a Happy Meal, maybe not rocking on both pieces of the rocking chair. Maybe they're missing a marble, maybe they refused to take their medication, maybe they're rebellious, maybe they're lazy. You think this down deep and you don't realize it, but you do. She let me digest that for a moment, and I fessed up that, yeah, it struck a chord. It struck a nerve. And she said, but that's just one example. You noticed that people who appear to be without a home look a little bit rough. You notice that there are more of them coming up around the awnings of businesses, closed businesses, moving into neighborhoods. These are signs that if they're not actually panhandling on the corners, it's too cold, because the air just goes right through you. And so one of the things that my fiance and I just kind of had a serendipitous moment, I tend to keep bottles of water in my car, partly because I need a drink and partly because it's my out. I don't like giving cash away, and when I'm around and about by myself, I don't feel safe giving away cash, and I have a lot of what if conversations with myself, so I do water. But yesterday, we went out and about, we needed some groceries, we didn't know if the streets were going to be shut down today or not, and we saw a gentleman out in front of a closed FedEx Kinko's with his space heater plugged into the outside wall, and he looked like he was fine. We weren't going to stop. He had a hat, he had a coat, he had boots on. There are a lot of questions that we ask ourselves when we see people. We go, well, do they really need it? And there are just so many, so why would we stop? Because this one actually seems to be in good shape. For whatever reason, we actually pulled over, and when I opened up the console, I had some leftover sunblock from summer still in there, stuffed in there with an old beanie and my water bottles in the back, and sent Josh to go explore and see if they might be of interest to him. And lo and behold, he didn't have gloves on. And he pulled out his hands and showed my fiance his cracked, bleeding, red, inflamed skin and said, God bless you. God bless you. I would have thrown that stuff out eventually or bought new for myself for the summer. It wasn't a sacrifice. It was literally sharing my leftover junk. And it made such a difference to him to have a moisture barrier on his hands. You and I both know what it feels like to have poison ivy, or to break out in hives from head to toe. Do you know how that feels? But for it to compound day in and day out, day after day, let alone also be cold, let alone have people not make eye contact with you. By the way, the other thing that the lady taught me when I was on the airplane is that eye contact counts. With people who do not have homes, eye contact matters, because without it, there's a switch in the brain that is flipped, and they cease to be acknowledged as being human, and their brain stops acknowledging that it is human. Not entirely. I'm not saying altogether that they're not people. I'm saying that as a basic courtesy to human life, eye contact counts. We can't help everybody, but sometimes there's somebody placed in our path, and skin integrity is one telltale sign of somebody who needs something, and it's just your leftover trash, so why not? Hey, you guys, stay safe and warm.